What's going on, you bunch of heathens? Back with another video. This one's called The Truth About German Kill Claims and Tank Aces by Potential History. I know that they're more than likely overinflated, but still seemed like an interesting video. Hope you guys have a good Thanksgiving if you celebrate. Check out the original video. Let's jump in.
This video is sponsored by War Thunder. As I was gathering pictures of Ferdinand wrecks for my last video, I noticed that it's almost impossible to find a webpage on the Ferdinand tank destroyer that doesn't list an unsighted kill-loss ratio.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. All I know about the Ferdinand is that I fucking hate fighting against it in War Thunder. I cannot kill a fucking Ferdinand to save my life.
This is usually claimed as 10 enemy tanks for every loss, but can vary. And in the rare instance there is a footnote, the citation chain just leads nowhere. Despite that, the 10-to-1 ratio is repeated everywhere as verified Ferdinand lore, meaning the number, whether...
To be fair, it's wearaboos. It's always wearaboos. Chris was at best disappointing. 89 Ferdinand had accounted for 502 Soviet destroyed tanks. Okay, but where's the actual 10-to-1? Like, where's the actual
it's based on anything
documents
real
for
or
it?
Just made up, has to come from something. So why can't I find it? A question that sent me down a weeks-long research rabbit hole through Eastern Front intelligence, wartime propaganda, and ended at the biggest fabrication of Second World War history I was amazed I had never heard of before.
What, Rommel?
Here's how I spent 6 weeks of my life that I'll never get back.
Okay, let's be honest though. These kinds of fucking like little deep dives that you randomly do, like it starts off with a small little thing at like midnight, and then you proceed to dump like another 4 hours into because you're trying to find this very specific thing. I don't hate those kinds of things. I always find them interesting.
I began by looking at how the Germans counted destroyed enemy tanks on the Eastern Front. And in short, there are basically two methods. For the most accurate numbers, you assign teams to physically go out and count enemy vehicles that are left behind once the fighting in an area is over. This method, though, requires a friendly advance, and for essentially all of the Ferdinand/Elephant service life, the German army wasn't advancing. So the 10-to-1 ratio numbers probably come from the second and much less reliable counting method, kill reports from troops in the field. Now, tallying troop claims of destroyed enemy tanks isn't unique to the Germans. Every combatant did this during the war to gather data on enemy losses as a fight was ongoing before a post-battle count was possible, with the understanding that they were likely inaccurate but better than nothing. This is because troop claims are, without fail, incredibly inflated due to multiple...
Well, yeah, they are. That's why, sorry, I got distracted because he put some stuff in the bottom left, so I was going to move to the right, but it's whatever. Let me look at snipers. They have to have, it's either, you have to have someone, what's the word? Witness your kill. I think someone have a higher rank too. I'm not positive on that part though. You have to have someone who witnessed it, and you have to actually go out and confirm your kill. And I know in World War II, Germans especially were very big into inflating numbers, or deflating in some cases.
Factors you just can't control for on a modern battlefield. Namely, the large number of independent units that can make contact with a single enemy vehicle over the course of a battle, and independently count their hits on it as separate kills and field reports entirely by accident. That's a lot of words, so here's an example. An anti-tank gun battery and a Tiger platoon are defending a position during a Soviet tank assault. The crews of both units, if they even notice each other in the first place, they could be positioned very far apart, are understandably not keeping track of which shell from what weapon dealt the killing blow to each tank that explodes to decide who gets to count the kill.
And then they both count it as their own kill, hence inflating the number. Okay, yeah, that also makes sense.
Most, because, you know, there's a lot of shit going on, they're going to count the tanks that they see explode after they shoot at them. Most likely after the battle, working off memory once the threat has been dealt with. Meaning that if the AT detachment and the Tiger platoon both shoot each T-34 at least once, according to their recollection of events, those 10 destroyed tanks will probably be reported as 20 destroyed tanks in their combat reports. Not because they're lying, but because in the chaos of battle, that's legitimately what they remember happening. Also, this scenario is unrealistically simple just to illustrate the point.
Obviously,
reality,
but it makes... Obviously, you're... Yeah. Yeah, this one especially, ground attack aircraft. I feel like I watched a video where they talked about that.
Many more factors inflating the count that get worse as time passes, I'll list on screen. But I think you get the idea. It's very easy for kill reports to be unintentionally inflated before you even start to factor in other problems like how unreliable eyewitness accounts can be, especially under stress. That in this scenario is just guaranteed given that they're recalling memories from combat. But my point is, since the Ferdinand's kill ratio at best comes from troop reports that are inherently flawed, this ratio is probably inaccurate. Almost certainly inaccurate.
Oh, most definitely.
But just how inaccurate? I couldn't help but wonder.
Like, it has to be that inaccurate due to the fact that there's no other evidence backing it up. Other than very spotty battle reports.
You can actually experience a bit of this yourself in the free-to-play game War Thunder, the sponsor of this video.
Hell
War
yeah.
Thunder has over 2,500 accurately modeled tanks, planes, and ships from over 10 different nations that you can command in 3 progressively challenging game modes spanning over 100 years of military history, from World War I to the modern quagmire of your choice, all of which can be customized
Quagmire to the
with
fucking
historical camouflages and insignia, or anachronistically if you'd rather your tank be loud. War Thunder's realistic graphics and
honestly, Quagmire understatement of the year.
Authentic sound effects are perfectly paired with the game's sophisticated vehicle damage model that adds to the realism by meticulously modeling each vehicle down to its individual components, from the engine to the gun and even the crew, all of which can be damaged in battle with a well-placed shot by your gunner. When one or more of these components are hit, an X-ray of the damage is available that, along with updating you on the status of your target, provides a slow-motion instant replay of the exact moment the 3 to 5 enemy crewmen inside started to have a very bad day. Play War Thunder for free on PC.
So that was on the... That's on... Oh, it's an SU-100. Okay, that makes sense.
Started to have a very bad day. Play War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or mobile devices now by using my links in the pinned comment or video description. New and returning players on PC and consoles that haven't played in the last 6 months will also receive a massive bonus pack across all platforms that includes multiple premium vehicles, the exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7...
I'm kind of pissed because when I stopped for like a year, and then I want to say a Russian Badger's code. I used his, but I didn't get the... it must have been like... I don't know why. I didn't get the Eagle.
Premium account. It's
I think it's super... I think that kind of sucks that you have to wait 6 months to get it.
The German Army organization assigned to the statistical analysis of Soviet equipment losses was called Fremde Heere Ost, or Foreign Armies East. And they were very aware of the issues inherent to kill claims and combat reports. To address the problem, they reduced the total troop claim numbers by a flat percentage that varied over the course of the war. First by 20%, then 30%, with the highest reduction of 50% being implemented right before Operation Citadel began at the beginning of July of 1943, as a direct response to a new Red Army effort to salvage a higher percentage of knocked-out tanks.
Note the following were deducted Jan to November. Okay.
And put them back into action after battle. While I did find some interesting bits of information concerning the repair program,
cash bounties were awarded to recovery crews per tank, according to one interrogation report of a Soviet POW. Lend-Lease tanks were rarely recovered, according to German frontline reports, saying most mornings the Russian tanks were gone and only the American ones we knocked out remain. I mean, it kind of makes sense in that. I mean, I'm going to say it, our tanks were better, but I mean, it makes sense. I don't know, maybe they didn't really have the parts and whatnot to fix them as easily as their own.
program itself, I found absolutely nothing on how the FHO settled on their reduction number. As far as I can tell, it could have been from some data set I never found or completely picked on a hunch. To see which of those two it might be, I tried comparing the reduced claims with actual known losses from various battles. Well, I say I, but thankfully other people have compared them already.
Oh, that's nice.
A lot of time. Broadly over the course of the war on the entire Eastern Front, the reduced claims are reasonably close to reported Soviet losses, reliable enough to be a data point while calculating total Soviet tank strength. Looking closer at individual battles,
so yeah, pretty close.
The reduced numbers are really hit and miss, and if you want a good overview, check out this article. Although, a word of warning before diving in yourself, the deeper you go into loss statistics, the more estimates you'll find, depending on the time, place, unit, whatever. I was not aware of this going in, and had to learn it the hard way by trying to find statistics that just don't exist. There's a lot of variation in how accurately these were tracked from unit to unit throughout the war, if the records themselves even survived in the first place. On top of that, every country counted a tank loss differently.
What did I say?
Survived in the first place. On top of that, every
Americans, temporary loss is immobilization. A write-off cannot be repaired in theater. Yeah, pretty simple. If I can't repair it in theater, then I'm writing it off. If it's immobilized and I'm able to repair it, then it's not an actual loss.
Country counted a tank loss.
Seems reasonable. Temporary loss out of action for more than 3 weeks. Write-off blasted into multiple pieces or stuck behind enemy lines. German loss definitions varied wildly from unit to unit and were the least standardized of the 4 major nations. It was common for divisions to count tanks that had been out of action for weeks as part of their combat strength on paper. Yes, I think Laserpig. I think it was Laserpig who talked about it in one of his videos where even if it wasn't running and like it was in their depot without an engine, no parts, they would still count that as part of their strength on paper differently reports,
which makes comparing them between battles.
Oh shit, I forgot I was reading these out. UK, temporary loss out of action for 24 hours, short-term repair, or longer, long-term repair. Okay, so kind of US, I guess. Write-off, damage beyond repair capabilities of core level workshops. Okay, so it seems more so like US's, maybe a, yeah, battles, basically US. Total non-combat losses and breakdowns with tanks lost in combat, so it's all kind of a mess.
Very difficult.
Oh, so we can't even tell what theirs are.
Statistics are essentially a black hole of estimations that will consume way too much of your time and never give you any solid
research that we would
because
like
the data you would need for them just
irretrievably gone.
Exist. Getting back on topic, I did manage to find a few kill reports from German units, just not any from a Ferdinand battalion. That said, I don't speak German and definitely didn't scroll through every single FHO document you could find online, so there may be a chance that I just missed it. But of the Ferdinand documents I found, none of them contained a kill claim, never mind one that would explain this kill ratio. One thing I am fairly certain of after all this is that German troops didn't purposefully inflate their kill numbers in their combat reports, which I'm aware sounds like a wild statement to anybody even slightly familiar with the topic of German tank kill claims because of a separate thing that gets way more attention, but I have a few reasons why I think this. Firstly, because troop reports were not published. The counts were recorded as intelligence to assist the war effort internally by the army, and once they were aggregated.
Okay, so these most people didn't because they didn't have a public persona to try to fucking jam up PR with.
Major decisions would be made by the high command utilizing this information, meaning an inaccurate count could actually be hazardous to your health. Second, kill numbers were recorded by unit and not assigned to an individual, so it's hard to see how a tank commander would benefit from saying he shot 12 T-34s when he really thinks he shot 5. I couldn't find any period sources on what unit level the counts were made at. The smallest I found in any documents was from an entire division, but most likely this was done at the platoon level from a few anecdotes I saw. There may not even have been a standard method with how often vehicles were moved around.
The bouncing shell off the ground looks cool as shit.
What about officers, though? Surely a platoon commander or whatever would benefit from changing his troops' collective number from 20 to 30, right? Surprisingly, not really, because the Wehrmacht and SS didn't didn't promote or decorate their tank crews for killing enemy tanks. They were kind of just expected to do that. To get an Iron Cross or any of the subsequent awards, you qualified by either performing a brave act or taking extraordinary actions while commanding troops in combat. I'm getting ahead of myself here, but a very ironic example of this is the Knight's Cross citation for none other than Michael Whitman. While, yes, the number of tanks he claimed to have destroyed in his career are listed, he's receiving the award for using his tank platoon to stop a breakthrough by a Soviet tank brigade. The tactical victory is clearly the more important thing listed here. There was an infantry award, the Tank Destruction Badge, given for destroying tanks with handheld explosives like a Panzerfaust grenade, magnetic mine, whatever, but obviously vehicle crews didn't qualify for this. Were there probably some people that lied anyway for whatever reason? Yeah, there had to be at least some, but to my great surprise, there's really no obvious incentive for German tankers to lie when submitting their combat reports to the FHO, at least that I could find or think of. This probably sounds very wrong to a lot of you though, because
it does.
It
really does.
Real German kill claims of enemy tanks, their accuracy and their value as statistical intelligence is buried under a mountain of garbage about...
Oh, Panzer Aces.
I'm sure I clickbaited these guys in the title, so
the fucking Wehraboo wet dream.
you saw this coming. It is impossible to research actual German tank kill numbers without finding endless references to Panzer Aces. If you're unfamiliar, these are tank commanders credited with insane kill counts that are probably inflated to look good in...
Oh, they are most definitely inflated, and it wasn't even them, just their one singular tank. It's like their whole, like, 3 or 4 tanks that they're all running, that they're all in command of, all of them put together. And they just take credit and they inflate them.
Zero solid information on the numbers behind the Ferdinand ratio. I figured, why not try to find out where the Panzer Ace kill claims come from? I started with Michael Whitman, who is easily the most famous Panzer Ace of the lot. While already being a known quantity to the Reich propaganda crews beforehand, his real claim to fame and what he's known for today was an ambush at Villers-Bocage, June 13th, 1944, during which his lone Tiger tank destroyed 20 to 30 British vehicles before being knocked out himself. This event is very disputed, and there are hours of videos on the battle itself if you're...
Oh, hold up. Let me go back. I gotta look. I gotta see some of these.
And there are
Yarn Hub. Oh, Tank Museum.
There are hours
Liberty Forge
of videos on the battle.
Honestly,
itself.
I'm kind of surprised. God, using fucking AI in this is fucking insane as a thumbnail.
If you're interested.
I'm kind of surprised I don't see Laser Pig on here.
German wartime media, though, latched onto the story, with newspapers, magazines, and newsreels publishing stories about Whitman's rampage at Villers-Bocage, the most in-depth of which is a radio interview with Whitman by the Reich Broadcasting Corporation about the battle, where he is credited with destroying 138 enemy tanks over his career, which is generally the number listed as Whitman's count. Is the number accurate?
Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if the 138 that a lot of these are quoting probably came from this interview.
Probably not, given the source. But even if it wasn't purposely inflated, given what we just went over,
I was about to say, unreliable. I was literally about to say Wikipedia, but no, it's the Nazi propaganda radio show.
Self-reporting in combat is, I'd still assume it's not correct. Propaganda number, though, is still better than nothing. Since it comes from a wartime source, it at least speaks to how this sort of thing was framed at the time. So I took my small win and went to see if I could do the same with a couple of other tank aces. However, I didn't find much. Whitman is mentioned by name in 3 print articles, 1 newsreel, and the aforementioned radio interview for his actions at Villers-Bocage, along with an additional unnamed newsreel appearance the previous February of 1944, for a grand total of 6 wartime media appearances that I could find. 7 if you count a July 1944 newsreel as an
German World War II Archive, the channel that uploaded this newsreel, pointed out to me in an email that these shots were probably included by mistake. German tanks are essentially never shown in this state unless they're also seen being repaired and put back into service, which these tanks are not shown to have later. So I'm assuming it's this one.
Honorable mention from these shots of destroyed Tiger tanks at Villers-Bocage, one of which is probably Whitman's. So what about the other people on the funny list? There's a shot of Otto Carius in the same August 1944 newsreel that Whitman is mentioned in, and Kurt Nipsel can be seen in one from October. Neither of their names are mentioned though, and the focus of these segments they're in are very clearly an infantry assault and the Tiger II respectively. In print there's a little bit more. I found a newspaper clipping from May 1944 claiming Nipsel destroyed 107 enemy tanks, along with a handful of award citations for some other commanders listed. The majority of the Panzer Ace material I found though, if you can even call it that, focused on people nowhere near as famous today as these guys, despite being mentioned by name in newsreels and print. That is, if tank commanders are even mentioned at all, because reporters almost always write about an entire tank unit in a specific battle, and credits the number of enemy tanks destroyed to an entire platoon, company, battalion, whatever's being described. You also never see any tank commander described as an ace in wartime publications. The closest term I found was Einzelkämpfer, popularized by Signal magazine in the second.
Honestly, it would not surprise me if this was more of a, what would you call it? After the fact, like post-war PR move that they did. Because I know a lot of Germans wrote biographies and had biographies written about them and whatnot. To like Rommel, I think Rommel had biography written. Whitman, I believe, did one as well, like shit like that.
Half of 1944 to describe soldiers who single-handedly defeated a larger enemy force. While this included tank commanders, Whitman specifically, troops from all branches of the German military were given the title, and it doesn't really describe what a Panzer Ace is understood to be today. After spending the better part of 2 weeks translating articles from the 40s and watching every subtitled newsreel I could find, thanks, guys. Nothing about this made sense. Whitman is the
that's
only
cool that he
real
shouts them out.
example of a Panzer Ace found in wartime material, and even that's a stretch because I found zero evidence the concept even existed during the war. I know what you're thinking.
Like I said, I don't
for
think
everyone else have to come from memoirs and such post-war.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Makes sense because of the ones that survived, only 3 that I could find actually wrote one. The most.
Oh, really? Huh. That's interesting.
Successful of them, Otto Carius, doesn't even claim 150 kills and stated multiple times that he never even.
Since the internet came into existence, there are only lies about me. No idea how many, but no more than 100 at a guess. Yes, Whitman was always in newspapers. It's suspicious when a whole crew had a Knight's Cross. A condition for receiving a Knight's Cross is making your own decision in combat. I must ask, how is a radio operator capable of making tactical decisions, a driver, a loader, and yet they all had one? In his book, Tigers in the Mud, he also claims that his gunner shot a Soviet plane out of the sky with the main gun of their tank. Yo, the fact that this is a fucking... that this picture looks like it was signed by him is actually kind of crazy.
Count, and that the numbers attributed to him online aren't real. As I was about to give up on this entire thing, the German language internet decided to show mercy by handing me 2 papers by historian Roman Turpel. That, after finding English translations, actually explained everything. Turns out I was on the right track. All of this is totally just made up. Just not by the Third Reich during the war, but by some guy decades after it ended. Allow me to introduce you to Franz Kurowski, the man who invented the Panzer Ace.
Oh.
German writer and academic terrorist Franz Kurowski supposedly got his start as an author by publishing short stories in the newspaper Watchin' the South.
Only source for this claim is Kurowski himself. Oh, so we don't even actually know if this is how he actually started. And these are the only 2 pictures of him. God, homie looks weird.
Supposedly got his start as an author by publishing short stories in the newspaper Watchin' the Southeast, while serving as a radio operator for the Luftwaffe during the war. His first real success, though, wasn't until 1957, when he published a novel that did numbers and allowed him to become, for lack of a better term, a professional slop author, churning out dozens of books across just as many genres that a...
Okay, so what is he, like a... God, I love the fact that he's writing fucking westerns. So, like... what would you call it? Dime store? Like, dime store author? Below me. Kurowski published 400 books under his own name and at least 18 known pseudonyms over the course of his career, along with higher number of articles published predominantly for Lanzer Pulp magazine. What kind of magazine is that? Pulp fiction type shit?
Pace using various pseudonyms in the following years. His best sellers, though, were historical nonfiction, well, books published as nonfiction, about the German military in the Second World War that became his primary focus by the 1970s. These were incredibly sensationalized retellings of actual events that real veterans, many of whom were still alive when these books were published, lived through. Were those veterans aware of this? Yes. Did they care?
Panzer War perhaps added a few embellishments.
Broadly,
the first after the war who gave former Waffen SS soldiers a chance to speak and publish their stories. SS Scharführer Ernst Barkman.
No, as the overall narrative of Kurowski's work, books or otherwise, was of apolitical soldiers defending their homes and didn't bring up, you know, all that other stuff, which for most veterans organizations at the time was not just enough to look past the factual exaggerations, but to make them some of Kurowski's most outspoken supporters over the course of his career.
Of course, trying to sweep it under the rug.
Critics, academics began to point out how worthless his work was as history right after he began to publish it, but with such a large and influential section of the West German population supporting him, this was at best an open secret that often bordered on parody with how obviously Kurowski was writing fiction to push a narrative. Here's an example.
Awesome.
In the early 60s, the Battle of Kursk by Soviet author Ilya Markin began to appear in West Germany via the GDR. The book describes an event during the Battle of Prokhorovka, where the driver of a burning T-34 rammed his vehicle into a Tiger tank of the 1st SS Panzer Division, both of which explode right after. This later became a major symbol of the Battle of Kursk. There's a statue, it's a whole thing, and has morphed over time if you want to look it up. The event itself isn't important here, though. What is that it triggered the fuck out of Franz Kurowski, who went out of way to refute the story not once.
I don't like the communists, but that's fucking funny that you're pissing off a Weraboo.
Not twice, but 3 different times. First, in a 1970 article for Der Lanzer, writing as Karl Kolatz, where he says that, actually, after the collision, the Tiger tank was able to move to safety before the T-34 explosion, and Markin's story is wrong and stupid. As evidence for this claim, he cited the Tiger tank's driver, SS Scharführer, and man who was still alive at the time this was published, Georg Lozich. Georg, however you say this. For his second retelling in 1986, in a book officially written by Leopold Verba, he gets a bit more ambitious. This time, after dodging the burning T-34, the Tiger tank then rammed and destroyed a different Soviet tank, basically plagiarizing the original story with the roles reversed, and still backed up by the unbeatable citation of, "Some guy told me this happened." I originally left this out for time, but if you're curious... Dude,
oh my god. Homie was a Redditor before Reddit. This is some real cringy shit. Holy fuck.
Of this story I've mentioned so far are contradicted by wartime documents and the supposed driver of the Tiger tank in question. Leibstandarte didn't report any Tiger losses on the day of the battle, and the driver claimed his tank was never rammed by a T-34. Although his account also contradicts the loss report, so who knows what really happened. It's with Kurowski's third and final publication of this story, though, that everything goes from amusing to tragic, because it starts to affect me. In 1992, Kurowski, under his real name this time, published Panzer Aces in English, which brought his Prokhorovka fanfiction along with many other equally dubious historical claims to North America. Unfortunately, his reputation for just making things up, though, did not cross the language barrier, and the book was accepted as a serious historical work. And all of this quickly got worse, as Panzer Aces was the first in a long line of Kurowski originals published for us dumb Anglophones that to this day continue to wreak havoc on the English-speaking world's understanding of the German army in World War II. You can find Kurowski, or one of his pseudonyms, cited in everything from online articles to master's theses in academic journals.
Oh my... There's no way... that this motherfucker was actually oh my god, he's actually... It's actually cited. Oh,
I even
that's
found
horrible.
a contracted U.S. Army report citing one of his books, and it's not difficult to find examples of this. Those 4 took me about 10 minutes. It's honestly difficult to understate the influence Kurowski's novels have had over here in the past 30 years. But a good illustration is the subject of one of his last books, Kurt Nipsel. Google his name and you'll find dozens of long biographies detailing his status as the top-scoring Panzer Ace, a model tank commander with a rebellious personality, dislike of Nazis, that he once fought an Einsatzgruppen officer he saw abusing a Soviet POW, and is being sidelined for promotion because of those last 3 things, along with being recommended for the Knight's Cross 4 times.
What the fuck is this fanfic?
But never getting it. None of this is true. Kurowski
It doesn't sound
According
true.
to Nipsel's former commander, Alfred Rubel, who was not a fan of Kurowski, Nipsel was a likable guy, but a very bad soldier, and definitely not cut out for command. He was also never recommended for the Knight's Cross, and while he was mentioned in the Wehrmacht report for destroying 101 enemy tanks, Rubel says this was done because the Wehrmacht, quote, wanted something similar to Whitman. Well, it's great that Rubel spoke out to the record on Nipsel. He is one of dozens of people Kurowski wrote about, and while word has begun to spread recently that nothing he's written should ever be taken seriously, it'll still...
Where it's too late. Fucking dumbass fucking kids and people in Redditors are wearaboos are already, it's too entrenched already.
Long time to flesh the fronds out of academia. Never mind the internet that might just be a lost cause at this point.
Oh,
I didn't waste my time
I can almost say it is.
Books to 100% confirm that he wrote about every person on this list and assign them their kill count. I did, however, find over half of them mentioned in the ones available online after about an hour of searching through them, to where I'm pretty confident he's the main source for most of the numbers on this list. What gives with Whitman, though? Turns out it was probably his timing and not his skills as a commander that made him an exception. Turple points out that from June 6th to June 11th, 1944, German propaganda units were having trouble finding anything remotely positive to report from the Normandy front with how things had been going. That changes, though, on the 12th, when Whitman charges into Villers-Bocage and destroys a bunch of British vehicles. Since the rest of that battle...
So because that happened, hey, we don't really have anything good to put out, so here's this. By the way, sorry if I keep going quiet. I'm just listening. I keep forgetting to speak.
Didn't go very well for the Germans, it was most likely decided to focus exclusively on Whitman's successful opening move, instead of covering the battle as a whole like they normally would, since it made for a better story. I highly recommend
they needed some good
for yourself if you're at all interested in
out.
this topic. They're amazingly researched, beautifully written, and full of details I had to leave out for time. Links are in the description. The thing I found most frustrating about this entire topic was that while the numbers are at best broad estimates and at worst just totally made up, the thing they imply is probably accurate. In the last 2 years of the war, where the German army was forced into a defensive posture, they fielded a lot of tanks and SPGs with powerful guns and...
The Ag Tiger was fielded very late in the war and was mechanically fucked to the point it likely had a negative kill ratio. Oof. Ooh, that sucks.
Thick armor, meaning those models probably destroyed more enemy tanks than they lost on average. If they didn't, given those 2 factors, it would be one of the biggest anomalies in military history.
Yeah, makes
Did it
sense.
Help? Well, no. But I don't see how that couldn't be the case without every tank battle that took place in Europe from 1943 to 1945 being an absolute disaster for the Germans. Some were, oh man, but not enough to nullify the number of the Germans. Some were, oh
Battle of the Falal's Pocket. United States, unknown. Canada, 5,600. Poland, 5,100. 60,000? Holy shit. Then the Vienna offensive. Oh, fuck. Well, yeah, well, on this one... I mean, the numbers are fairly fucking close, I think.
man, but not enough to nullify
Never.
the numbers that had to come out of those two factors at the time. And I'm really at a loss for a more satisfying conclusion to this video than that after spending 2 months chasing numerical ghosts. The 656 claimed just under 600 Soviet tanks destroyed from July to November 1943, according to Munch. That when compared to their total Ferdinand losses in 1943, roughly results in a 10-to-1 kill ratio, if you round both numbers fairly generously to make it work. This ignores the Stug and Sturmpanzer brigades whose kills may have been part of that total, but I'm not really sure that matters because the claim is already way too high to even be possible, let alone accurate, and is in a list that also includes 3 aircraft, so who cares anymore? I'm gonna go enjoy never thinking about this again.
Aw, cats.
Be sure to check out the links in the pinned comment or video description.
I don't
to download
blame you.
War Thunder for free.
Doing 2 months of work and still not actually finding anything, I don't blame you.
On PC or console and claim a bonus pack with all this free stuff if you're new to the game or haven't played for 6 months or longer. Or download the game on your phone to command the vehicle while touching grass for added immersion.
I'm always down for more immersion. This is a really good video. Like, this was good. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm gonna make sure to give it a like. Well, that was potential history. The truth about German kill claims and tank aces. That's a really good video. Make sure you guys check it out. Like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, you guys take care of yourselves. And make sure you guys have a good Thanksgiving. You guys take care of yourselves. See ya.